My arch unfortunately is falling apart. Okay. Hello my dear gardening friends. Weather is cooperating. I'm feeling much better. Thank you for all your wonderful wishes. And today is the time to plant my Olivia Austin roses. This area was well prepared last winter to host 2 Olivia rose shrubs, and today we are planting out. In my previous video, I was showing you how I was healing these roses. I was not able to plant them right away. So after soaking them for 24 hours with the plan that I will do the digging and planting these roses next day, well, it didn't happen. So I had to heal them. And in case you don't know how to heal your roses, here's the link how to do it. So this area was well prepared last year. Again, here is the link how I did it. And this area will be hosting 2 David Austin roses, Olivia Austin rose. Olivia Austin rose is a fairly narrow shrub. That's why I went for 2 Olivias. And then maybe I will even plant 1 more here to accommodate this area. So we're looking at, for Olivia Rose Austin is a shrub of 4.5, so we're talking about approximately this height, and then 3.5. So this is how Olivia Austin 1 is going to be here, and then Olivia Austin somewhere here, another one. I think 2 might be enough for this area, but again we will see. And one of the, I would say, disadvantages of David Austin roses, but one of the minuses of growing David Austin roses is that they are slow starters. You have to wait good 3 years to see the full bloom of the rose. But again, garden is all about patience, and we can't expect to have that instant result right away. My roses, right there, my Lady of Charlotte roses, are big bloomers, and I planted them 18 inches apart, and looks like in my garden it works. So I'm going to follow the same routine with these roses. They are heavy bloomers. They start blooming very early in spring, so I hope this area would be all nice and wonderful in spring one day, not this year. Maybe this year I will see several blooms here. So I'm going to follow 18 inches apart because I want to have one big bush here. David Austin recommends if the shrub is 4 feet wide, then you have to do 2 feet in between the same variety. Maybe you want to do that if your roses are really wide, but in my case, Olivia Austin is narrow rose. It's 3.5 by 4.5. And when David Austin says the approximate size of the rose, it usually works for me. In colder areas, that size might be smaller, and in warmer areas, that size might be bigger. But for me, I usually know that that is what works in my area because we have cold winters. So here we have, for this job, I have a spade, I have water, because there are actually 3 roses here, 2 Olivia Austins and 1 Desdemona. I'm not going to plant Desdemona here, I'm going to put it into the water, and I have my cow manure here. I know a lot of people do extra feeds into the planting soil. I don't do that, and it's up to the gardener. I just let soil do whatever soil was doing for many centuries, and I don't really put extra stuff into the planting soil. But again, we garden in different areas, and it's up to the gardener what works in their gardens. This method works for me. Somebody asked me if they need to re-soak their roses after they're bringing them from under the soil. I say no, but there is one big but, and very often it's very neglected, that knowledge, that all this effort the shipping companies, the shipping department of the nurseries who are shipping roses to us, all the effort to make sure that roses do not dry during the shipping method, and all this effort which we are putting into healing, the aim of all that is to make sure that the roots of the rose are not drying up. We have to remember that majority of the roots in bare root roses, when they arrive into our garden, the majority of their roots are left behind in the field of Texas nursery where David Austin is raising all these beauties for us. So this rose relies on us, and all those tiny little feeder roots are extremely important. Last year, I saw a funny post on Facebook. Somebody was digging up all the abrevieties, and they just laid them down on the side of the street with all the roots, dried roots, and they put a post, oh, whoever wants beautiful abrevieties to nurture them back to life in their garden, please come and take them. And I looked at those abrevieties. I said, oh gosh, are you kidding? Those roots are there for maybe 2-3 days exposed to air. So the bottom line is, dry roots are dead roots. You don't need to hydrate your rose again, but just make sure, like in my case, I'm not going to plant this Desdemona rose right away. I'm going to focus on these roses. So Desdemona is going into the water, and I will make sure that these guys are just sprinkled with water while I'm digging the hole here. All right, all my roses are going to be very gently relieved from this from the soil over them. Oh, I see worms already. Okay. Did I break something? No, I didn't. Okay. All right, here we go, little guy. I'm going to put him in the water. I don't want again him to dry up. And you know what? While these guys are here, I'm going to plant that one. I'm going to dig a hole for that rose. So the plan is the rose will be here and maybe here. So the first hole, now the rule is we cannot, absolutely not, shovel our roots into the small hole and hope that rose is going to thrive. The planting of the rose is the most important thing for the life of the rose, and the better we invest into preparing the hole, the better our rose will be for years to come. So make sure you have your digging skills and dig well. Ooh, I have a stone there. All right. The hole size should be generous for us not to bend the roots. Wow, that's a huge hole. And you know what? I cultivated this soil already. I made sure that I put all the stones out. Look at this. Hey, a big stone. I will reuse him. All right. Now what I'm going to do, here I have cow manure. This is my favorite fertilizing medium. I'm going to mix the natural soil, approximately half and half. And we'll add it into the planting hole. All right. I forgot to bring water. Just give me a second. Okay, here I am. Water is here. This rose. Now, when you look at the rose, this Olivia rose arrived in my garden grafted. What does that mean? Just for the beginner gardener. You see this? This is the graft union. Make sure that when you have cold weather, oh gosh, look at this. When you have cold winters, when you live in the area where winters are cold, you make sure that you plant this graft union underneath the soil level. In my case, I usually like to plant it something like this, where these branches are totally covered, the connections are totally covered, and my rose is sitting comfortably inside the soil. I like to make a hill right here like this, something like this. We want to make sure that our rose is comfortable. Spread leaves, spread branches. something like this. Okay. All right, let me water it. We want to make sure that the soil is well settled and there are no air pockets. Again, big air pockets are not healthy for the soil. Hold on, I have to wait for the water to go down. In my case, my soil is very fast draining, so this thing would be drained in less than a minute. People in other areas where they have heavy soil, the drainage is not as sharp as here, but we live in coastal Connecticut, so drainage is super sharp. All right, water is almost gone. My rose is slightly slanted. Now, I don't want this tag here. I ran out of cow manure. Let's get the mix. Now, cow manure has a tendency to make a soil teeny tiny more acidic, to bring soil into the acidic side. So you have to know your soil to make sure that your soil is not really acidic and you're adding cow manure as a fertilizer medium, and you make your soil even more acidic. In my case, my soil is very neutral here, and the fact that I'm adding cow manure into the soil makes it slightly acidic, which is exactly what our baby roses love. Okay. I love the smell of soil in spring. Oh, this is such a good stuff. I don't add any granular fertilizer whatsoever for the freshly planted rose. Let rose wake up from its dormancy and figure it out in its new location. Okay, so this is it for this baby. I'm going to water it. There would be, you have to watch, there would be some settling of soil, so you have to make sure that you will add more if there is a need for it. I have a lot of roots here from my previous bush here. Okay, watering will do. All right, good. Now the second bush, I'm planning to plant somewhere here. So I'm going to dig a hole there too. So procedure is the same. My Desdemona is back into the bucket with water. I make sure that second Olivia is wet. Somewhere here. Okay. Now, black cow manure. All right. Okay, so these roses are planted. Looks like this rose needs a little bit more of soil around it. And again, watch for settled soil. Look, it's settled here. And don't be afraid to add a little bit more. And I know right now it doesn't look very pretty, but this area, you know what I'm going to do on this area? When you go on David Austin website, Olivia Austin is paired up with beautiful dark blue. I would say that that's salvia. It might be catmint, but I think it's salvia because it's darker, deeper blue. And I'm thinking to plant this deep salvia here together with chartreuse color of some other perennial, annual or perennial. I have to decide yet. So this is a plant for this area. Meanwhile, this girl, Desdemona, is going to be planted in the front of my garden together with a set of 5 Roald Dahl roses, which are not here yet, believe it or not. And we have already April 4th, April 5th. I'm waiting for those roses to arrive, and I'm planning to plant them as one big bush. But in case some of you want to buy more than one bush of the same variety, know that there is an option on David Austin website where you can go for 5 varieties, and as a bundle they're cheaper, and as a bonus you will receive the mycorrhizae fungi with that purchase, and that fungi would be for free. So I'm busy today planting this rose out in front of my garden, but this is done and I'm happy with the project, and I see already these buds are coming nice and red. So these guys should be happy here and flower well, and I think they will. They're planted well here. Okay, gardeners, see you next time. Happy gardening.